Our 49ers position by position July preview rolls on. Next up, wide receivers, what to expect for the wideouts in this 2022 season. And yes, Deebo Samuel, still the headliner. We could say this. First off, expect Deebo Samuel to re-sign in time for this 2022 season. I'll delve a little bit further into that over the course of this video. We're going to talk Aiyuk. We're going to talk Jauan Jennings. We're going to talk the rookie speedster, Danny Gray. We're going to talk Ray McCloud, 49ers free agency pickup. And he's not just a special teams weapon. I think Kyle Shanahan is thinking of him as a real gadget weapon in this offense. And that's exciting for the 49ers because we know how creative Kyle Shanahan can be. And we'll talk about a potential sixth wide receiver. Will a sixth make the 53-man roster come early September for the 49ers? So all that and more in these few minutes talking about the 49ers receiver room. If you're just now discovering the channel, make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button as well. Subscriptions obviously welcome, and please do know that we go very in-depth into everything 49ers. In fact, this is part of an in-depth series. Even though there's no new news, we're going through every single position group here during the dead period of summer. And we have now gone through the entire defense and offensive line, and we've hit the wide receiver room. So what to expect from the wide receiver core in 2022? Well, first things first, at least the way the 49ers hope things are going to go, and I think Deebo Samuel as well, before they get started for training camp, and especially before they get started for the regular season, the 49ers want to re-sign the guy flexing his muscles up there. There's two guys flexing his muscles up there on the screen. One of them, the one on the left, is Deebo Samuel. And the 49ers want to make sure he's happy. Deebo obviously wants to make sure that he himself is happy before this 2022 season starts. It's been an offseason full of drama. Deebo Samuel requested a trade from the 49ers, but then he showed up at the involuntary portion of the offseason program during the veteran mini camp. And he seemed fairly content there. He was actually playing catch with Carter Shanahan, who's Kyle Shanahan's son. So whenever the star wideout, the supposedly disgruntled star wideout, is playing catch with the coach's son at practice, usually a good sign for relations between the team and that wide receiver. And according to everything that I've gathered, everything that I've heard, whispers here, whispers there, some intelligence here, some intelligence there, 49ers and Deebo Samuel, it appears to be on a good track. And it obviously wasn't on a good track earlier this offseason, but I've talked about this in several videos. The fact that Deebo Samuel is represented by the same agent as A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, both of whom have had some drama with either their current or their former teams this offseason. A.J. Brown isn't even with the same team anymore. He went from the Titans to Philadelphia. The fact that Tory Dandy, the same agent for all three of these guys, all on rookie deals signed in 2019, since that's when they entered the draft, the patterns, it's no coincidence that the patterns have been similar. I think Tory Dandy tried to create a lot of noise, maybe generate some panic amongst the teams that had these receivers, and he wanted to ensure the best, biggest possible deal for his clients in all three cases. And obviously for A.J. Brown, it worked. A.J. Brown scrubbed his social media. Titans said, you know what? Well, this guy's going to be asking for a lot of money. This might be some trouble. And the Tennessee Titans, based on, some knee injury history for A.J. Brown, based on the fact they thought that with Treylon Burks, they could effectively replenish that position in the draft, they deemed it worth it to trade AJ to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles decided to pay AJ $100 million over the next 4 seasons. With that extension, AJ Brown got the money that he was looking for, $25 million per year. So in a way, a lot of people left the table happy. The Tennessee Titans don't have to pay a big money wide receiver. They can go to Treylon Burks, and somebody's going to be on another rookie contract. AJ Brown gets the money and a big signing bonus immediately, and the Philadelphia Eagles feel that they have improved their offensive arsenal. So at least right now, before games are played, win-win-win. We'll see who the actual winner is after some seasons happen, after some games are under the Philadelphia Eagles' belts, after, we see the Tennessee Titans play some games with Burks and without A.J. Brown. In the case of Deebo Samuel, that $25 million number should seem familiar because it was Deebo's friend, the guy named Ricardo, right? I think it was Ricardo Young is his name, from Miami, who posted on Instagram, $25 million or we ain't talking. Well, that was before A.J. Brown was traded, and signed with the Philadelphia Eagles for $25 million per year. It looks like, based on how the wide receiver market has just progressed and flowed over the course of the past couple months, that Deebo Samuel and the market for him will be set for right around that $25 million per year. Even more important, though, and probably a bigger sticking point, is the fully guaranteed money in Deebo Samuel's deal, because we do know that he has a physical style of player. He runs people over. He knocks mouth guards out. And there's a good chance that he wants 3 years of guaranteed money from the 49ers. And there's a chance that the 49ers open these negotiations saying, we're only going to offer 2. So where's that compromise going to be met? Because you could pump up the average per year through non-guaranteed money at the end of the deal. We saw Tyreek Hill do that after being traded to the Dolphins this year to reach $30 million per year and set the standard for the market. So if Deebo wants $28 million per year, the 49ers can put some funny money at the end of the deal. They can make that happen. I think the market's going to dictate a little over $25 million per year, but the actual meat and potatoes here, the actual real sticking point, negotiation point for money is going to come in those fully guaranteed totals. And I think the sticking point there may be 2 versus 3 years guaranteed. I will say this. Let's reemphasize how dominant Deebo Samuel was last year. This is coming from a piece that I wrote a few months ago. But you look at running back efficiency last year. Deebo Samuel, when he played running back for the 49ers, he was the most efficient running back according to the advanced metrics in football. Elusive rating 130.5, highest on Pro Football Focus. Nick Chubb was second. He was way behind at 107.7. That is a formula that factors in broken tackles, yards after contact, all that good stuff. And then there's rushing yards over expectation from a couple different sources, although Samuel didn't have enough attempts to qualify for next-gen stats. Tej Seth, who's a football analyst, I think he goes to MIT online, really smart guy. Deebo Samuel is near the top of his rankings as well. On this chart, behind Jonathan Taylor, who had an amazing year. 49ers saw him when they played the Colts. And Aaron Jones, who obviously is a good running back for the Packers. And the yards per carry doesn't lie either for Deebo Samuel, 6.1 last year. He was phenomenal as a running back, but it's amazing when you see what his efficiency as a receiver was. And maybe I should make this even a little bit bigger so you guys can all have a look at it. As a wide receiver, Deebo Samuel, 2.93 yards per route run. Out of wideouts in the NFL, I trailed only Cooper Kupp. So don't let anybody tell you that, Deebo Samuel is only valuable because he's able to run the ball as well. He's a mediocre wide receiver, just merely good. No, he was excellent as a wide receiver. He had nearly 1,600 receiving yards last year. He had 1,000 halfway through the season. I mean, this guy was a complete beast for the 49ers. The 2.93 yards per route run is elite. And the 10.8 yards after the catch per reception over here in the right-hand column is unprecedented. We have never seen a receiver as good after the catch since this has been measured, and that goes back about 20 years, than Deebo Samuel has been for the 49ers ever since he was drafted, really. 2019, he was good in that category. 2020, he was hurt a lot, but he's still good in that category. 2021, downright historic, 10.8 yards after the catch per reception for Deebo Samuel. So the season was elite for him, and it all really adds up into this. The 49ers EPA per play with Deebo Samuel on the field versus off the field, they're over 4x as efficient with Deebo than without him. So when you talk about them needing Deebo Samuel, when you talk about how important he is to this football team, all I say is over 4x as efficient with Deebo on the field versus without him. So, of course, the 49ers need him. There's a reason they didn't jettison him like the Tennessee Titans jettisoned A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's because Deebo Samuel is more important to the 49ers than A.J. Brown was to the Tennessee Titans. And Deebo Samuel, you see, is a superstar. You saw the numbers from last year. I don't think that he's injury-prone because, really, you look at the actual injury file and the injury history from 2020, there was some severe bad luck. It was a domino effect, right? The hamstring happened in 2020 because of the broken foot. And the broken foot was what led to the lack of conditioning in the first place. That was during the summer out here in Nashville during that 2020 off-season COVID workout period. And Deebo Samuel and a broken foot, you can't tell me if there's only been one broken foot that this is somehow a recurring thing. He broke it once, conditioning slowed down, threw him off course. Boom, lo and behold, you saw him hurt the hamstring. But other than that 2020 season, he was healthy throughout almost all of 2019, played almost all of 2021 with a heavy workload. I think that's trending in the right direction for the 49ers. Funny enough, you know how an injury derailed Deebo Samuel for part of 2020. In a related way, an injury derailed Brandon Aiyuk for part of 2021. Strained the hamstring during training camp. Took him 5 or 6 weeks to get going, to reestablish rapport with that 49ers offense. So it's all about continuity, learning how to be a professional. For both Deebo Samuel, who learned how to be a professional, I think, consistency-wise in 2020 heading into 2021. And I think that we saw Brandon Aiyuk learn those same lessons this past season. So that's why I put this up here. A contract year for Brandon Aiyuk. That's what we're entering in 2022. Same position that Deebo Samuel was in entering 2021. Brandon Aiyuk's a year behind him. He signed his rookie deal, was drafted in 2020. Samuel in 2019. So a year behind. It's like his older brother, right, in this process of maturation through the NFL. As Aiyuk enters this contract year, we look at a blistering rookie season that he had. And then we look at a very strong finish that he had in 2021. And we say, wow, if Brandon Aiyuk explodes in year 3 the way that Deebo Samuel did, the 49ers are going to have to be talking about paying him early after the 2022 season. And that would be a good problem to have if you're the San Francisco 49ers. So that's something we absolutely must keep an eye out for here entering 2022. Now, as far as Aiyuk goes, well, he did hardly anything in weeks 1 to 6. Then he goes to Chicago. Jimmy Garoppolo, rolls out of pressure on off-schedule play, finds Aiyuk crossing over the middle of the field toward the sideline. Boom, that connection, I thought, sparked Brandon Aiyuk in the 2021 season. And it happened to be an off-schedule play. And one of the very first practices of training camp, it might have been the first, I remember Garoppolo hit Aiyuk on a really nice off-schedule play where you could tell those two had developed a sense of rapport. Maybe it was through the workouts in Nashville. Maybe it was something else. But they were on the same page early in training camp. And, what we were writing about a lot in training camp was that Brandon Aiyuk looks in great shape. Looks like he has good rapport with Garoppolo. The 49ers are using him a lot. And then came the hamstring injury, right? And that hamstring injury knocked Aiyuk out for a couple weeks. And then he was part of the rotation for the 49ers for those first few weeks, but he wasn't getting the football. So they were trying to get him out on the field. They weren't doghousing him and putting him on the bench like Dante Pettis. He was playing, but he just wasn't a trusted member of the offense. He lost that rapport, at least temporarily, that we had seen early in the 49ers training camp regimen before this strained hamstring. And he didn't get it back until Garoppolo started trusting him again. And I think the inflection point for not only Aiyuk, not only for Garoppolo, but for a lot of the 49ers team was that win at Soldier Field, which came in week 8 for the 49ers. So that was big. Aiyuk took off from that point on. And if you put Aiyuk's pace, if you take his pace from that Chicago game onward throughout the NFC title game, where he caught a nice deep pass from Garoppolo, remember that in the first half, you take that pace and you extrapolate it over an entire 17-game regular season, Aiyuk would have had over 1,000 yards receiving. So the challenge for him entering this contract year, 2022, is to take whatever he learned rapport-wise, whatever he established rapport-wise as a professional, learning how to be a consistent professional, just like Deebo Samuel the year before, taking that, stretching it through the whole season. And if that happens, Brandon Aiyuk is going to be in line to make some money as soon as next offseason. Then we move on to the 49ers' number 3 wide receiver, and that is Jauan Jennings. Now, Jauan Jennings, this guy, remember the play with Rayshawn Jenkins against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 49ers blowout win after they took care of the Rams? Jenkins, safety for Jacksonville, loses his cool. Jauan Jennings doesn't. Jauan Jennings gets hit in the face. He still had his helmet on, so I'm sure it didn't hurt. Draws a 15-yard penalty after a little bit of a skirmish there with Rayshawn Jenkins, and the 49ers are well on their way to dominating Jacksonville. Obviously not a well-coached team last year. Urban Meyer was not long for the job at that point. But the point is that Jauan Jennings, who, had some management issues in college. I mean, there was a whole suspension that happened because of a little bit of an altercation with Jauan Jennings at Tennessee. That whole situation with him, I think scared some teams. I think there was higher round draft hype for Jauan Jennings the year before he came out of Tennessee. But then when he came out of Tennessee, after that suspension, due to that incident in the Vanderbilt game for the Volunteers, they got Jauan Jennings suspended for the first half of the subsequent bowl game, he went down to the 7th round. His stock tumbled. But you talk to any Tennessee fan, they absolutely love this guy because he's a complete gamer. And the 49ers want gamers because they block. And Jennings is physical, right? 6'3", 6'4", big, strong. But he's also got that nasty in him. And the reason I say that he's got Tyler Durden vibes, well, the Tyler Durden vibes, that comes from Fight Club. And I've said this before on the show. But it reminds me of the scene where they're having the Fight Club down in the bottom of the bar. And the bar owner doesn't know about it. His name's Lou, right? Then Lou comes down and, realizes that, oh my God, they're having a fight club in the bottom of my establishment. He's not happy about it. So he starts beating the living shit out of Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt. But this is the moment where Tyler Durden galvanizes the, support of everybody. The entire Fight Club believes in him as a leader because he's just sitting there not punching back and laughing as this guy Lou beats the crap out of him. Well, I remember Rayshawn Jenkins taking the swing at Jauan Jennings, and I remember the Exmo cameras for Fox capturing Jennings just smiling, laughing. So he pissed off Rayshawn Jenkins to the point that through blocking, right, just blocking so hard to the point that the guy was hostile, taking extracurricular post-play swings at him. But Jauan Jennings was able to turn off the switch of aggressive blocking when the whistle blew and was able to earn the 49ers a 15-yard penalty. It's that kind of physical nasty that can differentiate and has differentiated the 49ers from other football teams because they do run the football a lot. They're trying to zag while other teams are zigging. These defensive backs are not used to defending the run. They're getting smaller across the league in order to try to cover some of these backs who are becoming wide receivers, right? Well, the 49ers, they put their head down and they say, well, we see smaller DBs. We're going to try to bruise you. We're going to try to have our receivers block. And a guy like Jauan Jennings can really get under the skin of opposing DBs who aren't used to that physical brand of football, just like he did last season. He also, you talk to Kyle Shanahan, he says that against one-on-one coverage, Jennings might separate as well as anybody on this 49ers roster. And he's not fast. He ran a 4.6 40 coming out of Tennessee. That was another reason why he dropped down to the 7th round. But speed in the 40-yard dash does not obviously translate to speed on a football field, especially as a wide receiver. It's about fearlessness sometimes. It's about short area quickness. And Jauan Jennings has got both of those, but he's especially got the fearlessness. A lot of times, guys who are only like 80% confident about running across the middle of the field because it's so damn dangerous in the NFL, they don't plant their foot in the ground and they don't make that cut with verve. They don't put their full heart behind those cuts, behind that motion through the middle of the field. Jauan Jennings isn't afraid. And because he's not afraid, because he's putting both cheeks into this stuff, because he's putting 100% into that cut in the middle of the field, doesn't matter that he runs a 4.6, 4.7 40. Because he's fearless coming over the middle of the field. And because of that, he's attaining a little bit more separation. Anyway, this guy was a hell of a number 3 receiver for the 49ers as the season progressed in 2021. And I think they're looking forward to seeing more of him in 2022. He should only get better. And again, it's not just about the on-field production. It's about the personality. He gives a little Kendrick Bourne to the 49ers as well, just a fun-loving personality. But I think a little bit meaner than Kendrick Bourne, especially when it comes to that run blocking. All right, moving on. The 49ers brought in Ray McCloud to be an offensive weapon. A lot of people assume that Ray McCloud just came to be a special teams weapon for the 49ers, but that's not the case. The 49ers are thinking about Ray McCloud as an offensive weapon with special teams capability on the side. Now, the guy, you think gadget because he's 5'9", but there's nothing wrong with Kyle Shanahan and a gadget weapon. I think those two could probably go together really well. Take a look at the 49ers receiving efficiency in 2021. Blue is good, red is below average. Deebo Samuel, obviously the top of the list. They're going to use George Kittle as a receiver. I'll talk about him more in the show about tight ends. Number 2, Brandon Aiyuk recovered to be in the blue, 1.70. Jauan Jennings in the blue. JaMychal Hasty in the blue. But, there's something missing here. Yes, you got Samuel, you got Kittle, you got Aiyuk. I don't think you use Juszczyk enough if you're the 49ers. Then you use him some more. You could add some different skill sets on top of the efficient receivers in this list. They try to get Sherfield and Sanu involved last year. Didn't really get much out of that. I think Ray McCloud on some sweeps, on some reverses, I think Ray McCloud sneaking past the secondary. He is 5'9", and you do have a lot of other talented players to worry about. I think Ray McCloud could be somebody that really finds a niche in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And somebody else was drafted to find a niche in Kyle Shanahan's offense is the rookie Danny Gray. Look back on this yards per route run chart from last year, and you don't probably even see the name of the guy that was supposed to play Danny Gray's role last year, and that's because he didn't have any catches. And that was Travis Benjamin. Travis Benjamin's not even on here. Kyle Shanahan has long emphasized the importance of having a speed threat in his wide receiver room. The 49ers are all about yak, and let's go to here. Let's switch gears really quick. I'm going to come back to the Danny Gray point. Jimmy Garoppolo facilitated the yak well, right? Yards after the catch. In fact, the 49ers yak per completion, here's the top 5 in the NFL, highlighted for you right on the screen. 49ers number 1 at 6.6, Bengals number 2 at 6.4, Chiefs 6.1, Packers 6, Saints 5.8. So the 49ers set up yak better than any other team in football, and they actually orchestrated yak better than any other team in football. You wonder if Trey Lance is going to be able to set it up as efficiently as Jimmy Garoppolo did last year, given the fact that the short game might be a little bit more of a question for Trey. But that's an important part of Kyle Shanahan's attack. It's obvious that he has selected receivers tailor-made for yards after the catch, and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle especially, but even Jauan Jennings was a monster. Remember the yards after the catch against Dallas? I mean, we can go on and on. Brandon Aiyuk gets yak in a different type of way. I mean, he's the hurdler, right, back in 2020 against the Eagles. But to set up yak, you need to stretch out the defense. You need to give your guys underneath a little more room to roam. And for that, you want the speed threat. And that's why I'm talking about Danny Gray. How quickly can the 49ers acclimate the rookie out of SMU? The speed threat for the 49ers early in the Shanahan regime was Marquise Goodwin. Then they tried to have Travis Benjamin last year. Didn't work out for the 49ers. So these prior speed burner threats, really, they haven't been all too productive for the 49ers outside of Marquise Goodwin throughout the 2017 season, where he almost hit that 1,000-yard mark, but then was concussed against the Rams in Week 17 on that. It looked like a dirty hit to me. The 49ers weren't happy about it. But stretching the field for Shanahan is so important because he wants room for his bigger bodies like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle to be able to pick up some steam underneath. So we saw Travis Benjamin come in with Trey Lance against Arizona last year and just run go patterns. They didn't throw it to him, but he just ran go pattern, go pattern, go pattern. And the 49ers did successfully stretch the field. But Benjamin only had one catch and it came in the playoffs, nothing during the regular season. So Shanahan said, well, we got to go out and draft somebody that can actually stretch the field, both through go patterns, blowing the top off the defense, and also through some quicker tunnel screens where if the defense is playing way off the line of scrimmage, he can catch and run. And Danny Gray is the 49ers' attempt at that from SMU. Now, the question is, how quickly is he going to acclimate to the playbook? How quickly is he going to acclimate to the NFL game? Because if it's sooner rather than later, the 49ers should have quite the weapon on their hands. It wasn't too far into OTAs that Jimmy Ward said, whoa, who the hell was that? That guy's fast. And Jimmy Ward, I mean, if you get a compliment from a veteran like Jimmy Ward, who just likes to go and talk shit all the time on social media, you're doing something right. And Jimmy Ward was talking about Danny Gray. So Danny Gray could bring a new dimension to this 49ers offense. Will there be a number 6 on the 53-man, a number 6 wide receiver? Well, for that, I got to open up the depth chart. So give me just 1 second. Didn't have it open a little bit before. But, I mean, there is a very good chance that the 49ers, barring injuries here in training camp, will be happy with the 5 receivers that I just mentioned, that I just listed on the 53-man roster. Here you go. There's the receiver position. Samuel, Aiyuk, Jauan Jennings, Danny Gray, and Ray McCloud. In fact, on my 53-man roster projection, I don't have anybody else making the team. But it's fair to ask, will there be a number 6 making the 53-man? Well, you have Keyshawn Johnson, Fresno State product, formerly played for the Cardinals. You have Marcus Johnson. He's a veteran the 49ers signed, played for Texas back in the day. Malik Turner, another veteran the 49ers signed, played for the Seahawks. He has a nice, big frame. He could block, and he's caught deep passes from Russell Wilson. He's done some good stuff. He had a big catch against the 49ers back in that OT game in 2019. And then you have a couple undrafted rookies in Tay Martin and Taser Mack. Both guys can move a little bit. Both guys do have some speed. And obviously you also have Austin Mack. So that's 6 receivers competing for one more potential spot. There's not even a guarantee that there will be a number 6 wide receiver spot on the 53-man roster. But my question is, will the 49ers carry somebody there? And obviously, we can't answer that right now because we have to see how training camp goes, who gets hurt, what Kyle Shanahan wants. But that's just something to keep in mind. Finally, now that we've gone through the whole unit, here's my question. Is this finally the diverse wide receiver core that Kyle Shanahan has always wanted? That's what we're going to answer in this 2022 season. He's got a bruiser, all-around superstar in Deebo Samuel. Obviously, the contract situation is something we'll keep an eye out for. He's got a guy entering a contract year that's slippery, that's ultra-talented, that can beat man coverage in Brandon Aiyuk. He's got an enforcer, a guy that's getting better all the time, and a guy that can separate, which is really important at any receiver position. But if you could have a true separator, a fearless separator at your number 3 receiver spot, a spot that's going to get a lot of passes on third down and in the red zone, he's got that in Jauan Jennings, a blocker as well. Boy, that's a good 1 through 3. The 49ers have to be happy with that 1 through 3. And then on top of that, on top of the diverse skill set that we're all already seeing 1 through 3, Shanahan's got a gadget weapon in Ray McCloud and a burner in Danny Gray. Plus, he's got 6 guys to choose from for a potential number 6 receiver spot. So I have to wonder, is this finally the diverse wide receiver core that Shanahan has always wanted? Because back in the day, you were dealing with some scraps there, right? I mean, it's tough because they thought Dante Pettis was going to be a slipperier, better target than he was. But that's before the 49ers really knew what their philosophy of bullying teams on the ground was going to be. And Pettis just wasn't going to be cut out to be part of that apparatus. So he had a good end to the 2018 season. It was all downhill from there. He had a guy like Marquise Goodwin, speedster in 2017. You had Pierre Garçon, who might have implemented some of that hard-nosed mentality, but he was at the end of his career and just started getting hurt there in 2017 and 2018. So that didn't work out for the 49ers over the longer term. But Garçon did help implement the mentality, the hard-nosed mentality that Shanahan wanted. And now I think we've finally seen it translate into the team as a whole, the offense as a whole. And that receiver room has the diversity I think that Shanahan wants, especially if Danny Gray is able to show up as a rookie and give that speed, that lightning punch on top of the 49ers Thunder. So that's a look at the 49ers receiving room. Maybe I wait into the comment section. Maybe I don't. Maybe I will. Maybe just for a couple questions to answer them here. Again, right now, stop everything that you're doing. Why don't you like the video, subscribe to the channel? Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate that support as we get in depth here throughout all the 49ers position groups. All right, let's take a look. Any questions? And we will answer them. I don't see many questions, so I'll wait here just for a couple minutes. Again, while you're waiting, if you're not going to answer a question, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Deebo was the leading receiver in the league for the first 10 games of the year. And then the 49ers had to move him to running back. So very, very impressive year for Deebo Samuel. Thoughts about Jimmy Ward's Twitter post about free agents next year? Well, it's true. He's going to be a free agent next year. And he has every right to step up and try to get as much money as possible. He's on the wrong side of 30 now. So if I'm Jimmy Ward, I am making a name for myself to the greatest extent possible this year. And you can make a name for yourself by being brash on social media, but then you got to back it up on tape. And if you do both of those things, well, then you've marketed yourself really well, like Richard Sherman did several years back. And then free agency is something you earn as an NFL player. You last long enough in the league to have that market for your services be driven up and up and up. And Jimmy Ward, if he plays good football again this season, then he'll have a market for his services. And it might be the last time that he has a serious market for his services, given his advancing age. So if I'm Jimmy Ward, I'm looking forward to potential payday as well. That's why you work. I mean, it's just like anybody in any business should do for themselves and for their family. Looking for more questions. I'm answering questions about receivers today. So drop in one more about receivers and we'll go from there. How is Danny Gray's progress? Did you see any wow factor from him compared to other 49ers receivers? Yes, I actually did. He's really fast. Like, you could tell this guy's really fast. I mean, Jimmy Ward was mic'd up and he was like, holy crap, this guy's fast. So that's all that I could say about the progress. The speed translates to an NFL practice field. Now we'll see if he can handle the physicality of the game and if he can handle the playbook in short order. The 49ers like the personality. They're optimistic about it, but we know that this stuff can take time. From what you saw practice, who would you pick as the sixth wide receiver? Well, I didn't see any contact in practice. That's the tough part. No pads. Malik Turner had a couple big days. Marcus Johnson had a few nice catches there. I think the two rookies moved really well, Taser Mack and Tay Martin. But again, it comes down to a physical thing, right? And if you can work the field physically, if you can block, and that's not something that's going to be on display really until training camp, that's how you can earn that sixth spot. So we'll see if the 49ers even carry a sixth wide receiver. It might even depend on injuries to the top five guys. I'll finish up with this. Curious about the arm fatigue nonsense myself. This is what I just tweeted because it's so ridiculous, and I'll leave you all with this. I think this is a good way to address it. My tweet was, and I read right now, what will be the next object of social media hand-wringing surrounding Trey Lance after the arm fatigue narrative runs its course? I'm trying to get out ahead of this repetitive cycle and guess the next topic. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm being a little sarcastic there, but it's almost insulting to our intelligence now. What are they going to come up with next? Well, they got to shock us, to get clicks, to get whatever you need. You need to come out with something that people aren't expecting. So let's just make up a baseball term for pitchers, arm fatigue, for guys who are throwing over and over and over again at extremely high torque. And, Tommy John surgery is a very common thing in the MLB. Let's take a pitcher term, arm fatigue, and apply it to Trey Lance and see if it sticks. I can tell you one thing, it's not coming from the 49ers building. And I can tell you another thing, nobody knows if he has he had a chipped finger last year. So that held him out for a while. He was the backup quarterback for the 49ers last year. Yes, they're working on his mechanics, tweaks to his throwing motion. Yes, that takes a certain level of effort and precision on top of that. But no, he's not Madison Bumgarner throwing 130 pitches and going back on 2 days rest in Game 7 of the World Series. This is very different playing quarterback in the National Football League. So arm fatigue, it seems like a really blown out of proportion, contrived term. Maybe there was some soreness for Trey Lance at some point as he was tweaking his mechanics, but I've seen him in practice. I've been at every single 49ers practice over the years here, and especially over the Trey Lance season. And there's zip coming out of his arm with that football. You saw the games last year. He can still throw the football. There's arm talent there for Trey Lance. It's more a matter of mechanics for Trey Lance and firmly adapting to the NFL level. And then obviously it's going to be Kyle Shanahan's duty and his job to accentuate Trey Lance's strengths. And one of those strengths is obviously his athleticism while protecting him, insulating him from potential injuries. So I hope that addresses your question. You can follow me on Twitter, more of those reactions on there. But this was fun. Everybody like the channel, subscribe to the channel. If you want to subscribe to The Athletic and you want the State of the 49ers receiver room that Matt Barrows and I wrote back in February, well, you can have at it. I'll put the link in the comment section right now. There you go. Link is in the comment section. I'll even pin it up there for those of you who watch this later. All right. Like and sub. That's all I ask you to do. More in-depth coverage coming soon. Everybody take care. Have a great Friday afternoon.